Brienne had always loved capturing moments with her family. Every Sunday, she posted a photo on Instagram, a snapshot of their week. It was her way of sharing their happiness with the world. But the photo she posted that Sunday would change everything. At first glance, it was just another picture. Brienne, her husband James, and their 2 children smiling on the porch of their home. The sunlight bathed them in a warm glow, and the scene looked idyllic. Brienne had no idea that this innocent photo would soon become the center of a nightmare. The post went up in the morning, and by noon, Brienne noticed something unusual. Her phone was buzzing non-stop with notifications, likes, comments, and shares. She had never seen this level of engagement before. Curious, she glanced at her phone during a quick break at work, but before she could read the comments, the notifications stopped abruptly. Confused, she refreshed the app, only to find her account suspended. Brienne's heart sank. She had worked hard to build her Instagram presence, sharing wholesome family content. She couldn't imagine what she had done to violate the platform's guidelines. Frustrated, she sent a message to Instagram support, but there was no immediate response. When her shift ended, Brienne drove home, her mind racing. She wanted to discuss the situation with James, but as she pulled into their driveway, her stomach dropped. 3 police cars were parked outside their house, their lights flashing. The front door was wide open, and officers were milling about. Brienne's neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, hurried over to her car. "Brienne, I tried to call you," she said, her voice trembling. "The police came looking for James. He ran out the back door before they could catch him. I don't know what's going on, but it's bad." Brienne's mind spun. What could James have done? He was a loving husband and father, always putting their family first. Before she could process the situation, an officer approached her car. "Mrs. Carter?" he asked. "We need to speak with you. Do you know where your husband is?" Brienne shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "Number. What's this about? Where are my children?" The officer explained that her kids were safe at her mother's house, but he refused to give details about the investigation. "We have a warrant to search your home," he said, "and we need you to come to the station tomorrow morning with a lawyer." Brienne felt a wave of panic. She needed answers, but the officers weren't giving her any. She drove to her mother's house, her hands gripping the steering wheel. Her children were shaken but unharmed, and Brienne did her best to comfort them. All the while, she tried calling James, but he didn't pick up. When he finally called back, his voice was tense. "Brienne, listen to me," he said. "I didn't do anything wrong, but I can't explain right now. I need you to trust me." Before she could respond, the call ended. Brienne's mind raced. Who was this man she had married, and what had he gotten himself into? The next morning, Brienne went to the police station with a lawyer. The officers were tight-lipped, but they revealed that the photo Brienne had posted contained evidence of a crime. Specifically, James appeared to be wearing a ring that had been reported stolen, a rare, priceless artifact. Brienne was stunned. "That's impossible," she said. "James was wearing his wedding ring. I took the photo myself." The officers weren't convinced. They showed her a magnified version of the photo, and sure enough, the ring on James's finger didn't look like his wedding band. It was larger, more ornate, and matched the description of the stolen item. Brienne's heart sank. Had James been hiding something from her? She thought back to the past few weeks, trying to recall any signs of suspicious behavior. There had been moments when James seemed distant, but she had chalked it up to stress at work. Now, she wasn't so sure. James's lawyer, a man named Mr. Grayson, arrived at the station. He spoke briefly with Brienne, assuring her that James was innocent and that they would get to the bottom of the situation. But something about his demeanor felt off. He was evasive when Brienne asked questions, and he seemed more interested in protecting himself than helping James. Later that day, Mr. Grayson handed Brienne a slip of paper with an address on it. "James wanted you to have this," he said. "It's important." Brienne examined the address. It was for a jewelry store downtown. She had no idea what it meant, but she decided to investigate. When she arrived, she noticed a police car parked nearby. The jeweler, a nervous-looking man, was speaking with an officer. As soon as the officer left, the jeweler hurried back inside and locked the door. Brienne's instincts told her something was wrong. She waited until the coast was clear, then approached the store. Through the window, she saw the jeweler examining a ring that looked exactly like the one in the photo. The next morning, Brienne returned to the police station. James looked exhausted but relieved to see her. "Brienne, I didn't do this," he said. "I swear." "Then why did you give me that address?" she asked. James frowned. "What address? I didn't give you anything." Brienne's heart raced. She realized that Mr. Grayson had lied to her. The address wasn't from James. It was part of a setup. She explained everything to the detective in charge, who listened carefully. "We'll look into it," the detective said, "but we need proof." Brienne knew what she had to do. She rushed home and found James's wedding ring in his dresser. When she brought it to the station, the detective compared it to the ring in the photo. The differences were obvious. The photo had been altered. The police launched an investigation into Mr. Grayson and the jeweler. It turned out that Grayson had been working with the thief to frame James. The stolen ring had been digitally added to the photo, and Grayson had planned to use the confusion to cover his own tracks. James was released, and the charges against him were dropped. Brienne felt a mix of relief and anger. Relief that her husband was innocent, and anger that they had been dragged into such a nightmare. That night, as they sat together on the porch, Brienne turned to James. "Why didn't you tell me what was going on?" she asked. James sighed. "I didn't want to scare you. I thought I could handle it on my own. But I was wrong. I'm sorry." Brienne took his hand. "We're a team, James. No more secrets, okay?" James nodded, and for the first time in days, Brienne felt a sense of peace. They had been through hell, but they had come out stronger. And as the sun set, casting a golden light over their home, Brienne snapped a photo, a new memory to replace the one that had nearly destroyed them. The lawsuit against Mr. Grayson was swift. He lost his license to practice law and faced criminal charges for his role in the conspiracy. The stolen ring was returned to its rightful owner, and the jeweler involved was arrested. Brienne and James decided to take a break from social media, focusing instead on rebuilding their family. They learned to cherish the moments they shared, not for the sake of a post, but for the joy of being together. And though the photo that started it all was long gone from Instagram, it remained a reminder of the dangers of deception, the strength of love, and the importance of trust.